Hello. Today we're going to talk about Ashtanga, breath, Drishti, Bandha, and the mantras, opening and closing. So with any path of yoga, really the most important thing to ground yourself in first is the breath. Once you tackle your breath, you can really give yourself to the postures, to the meditations, to whatever follows. Whenever your breath's out of control, your mind's out of control. When your mind's out of control, then you find yourself just holding the breath, doing things in ways that don't really serve you. A good signal to you're trying too hard or putting way too much effort into something, or you're in your mind, check your breath. If you're holding your breath, you're probably squeezing areas you don't need to. Just take a couple reset breaths and come back to it and really press into this. A base breath practice is Ujjayi breath, which can be accomplished in one of two methods. One is to slightly open the throat and just really create more space, and you get that. And the other is to create a slight constriction. You can get a very similar thing. Neither is right, neither is wrong, just whatever really comes to you easier. Breath or pranayama is the fourth limb of Ashtanga Yoga, but it is no doubt the most important. If you want to do more breath work, you can go to the YouTube channel and you'll see I have a ton of different varieties on how to really get this under control. When we breathe consciously, it helps us with our alignment, both mentally and physically. It keeps us present. It helps us focus. It really helps us focus. Getting the breath into the diaphragm, feeling the chest expanding, getting that full deep breath each time, it just keeps our mind pointed at the here and now. You know, in some schools we align a mantra with the breath. In Ashtanga we tend to count, but if you do have a breath mantra alignment, feel free to use it. It is also that inward gaze. Once you have a very strong inward gaze, the asana will follow easily. Probably the best definition of asana I've found is a balance of body and mind. So anytime you're in a posture, you can check. Am I in balance of body and mind? Am I struggling? Am I holding the breath? Am I squeezing tension? Am I really just putting maximum effort into it? If so, then check yourself. When we push ourselves too hard, that leads to injury. It's very important to find this balance. Naturally, the deeper the breath, the deeper your mind. The deeper your mind and the deeper the breath, the deeper your practice is going to be. It's really a good practice after a good physical practice to sit down and meditate or do some pranayama for an extended period of time. Once the body is clear, work a little bit harder on the mind. With Ashtanga, or really most yoga practices, the breath is through the nose. We do this because it has a nice filtration system, it removes some impurities, and also it stimulates the two major nadis that are associated with the sinuses. But nadis are a completely different topic. If you do struggle with getting a deep breath, it could be a good practice just to bring one hand over your diaphragm, one over your chest, and just close the eyes and track your natural breath. Notice where it's at, and then slowly start to invite the breath, inhaling navel to throat, exhaling throat to navel, inhaling navel to throat, exhaling throat to navel. Just find that action. Once you have that action and it becomes automatic, the other things will follow in line. This is very important. It's a good idea to do a short check-in before and after each class, so you can kind of notice the shifts inside of you, notice anything that was challenging, notice anything that came with ease. Just really take mental notes. We don't want to obsess over the results, but it's good to notice what's going on, and it'll help us keep us focused and on the path. So a lot of the times in Ashtanga, we're working with the bandhas. There's three major bandhas. We have Jalandhar Bandha, which is the neck lock. It's essentially pulling the chin back and down a little bit, extending the back of the neck. During posture practice, we don't do this. This is more of a practice during meditation, deeper pranayama, things of that nature. And then we have Uddiyana Bandha, which is the diaphragm lock, and it's just pulling slightly in and up on the diaphragm. We still leave enough space so we can breathe. In other schools of yoga, they say to only use Uddiyana Bandha when you're holding the breath out. But here, it just helps to activate the core so we can really have proper alignment in the body. And then there's Mole Bandha, the root lock, which is a slight pull up on the pelvic floor. It's just the internal muscles of the rectum and the sex organs and right under the navel, which your navel is 3 or 4 fingers underneath the belly button. It's that sort of point, it's a point of power. It really helps to disperse energy. It's related to digestion, things of that nature. The word bandha means lock. So we lock this subtle energy in and we can circulate it through our body, which is where part of the healing comes in. Once we learn to control this energy, have it serve us, then we can at least be more mindful in our ways so we can invite healing into our bodies and our minds. When we're always acting from that fight or flight mode, then we do things that are out of sync with what we really need, what we're really drawn to, what needs to happen so we can heal. But whenever we are aware and we learn to encapsulate ourselves into this beautiful spiritual being that we are, then we can really, really focus on what needs to happen. It's important to not get too caught up in results. We all have different bodies. They all have different, physical limitations. But with time, these will expand. And some limitations are hard, some are soft. And we learn to recognize these so we can move gracefully through our practice. Like for me, I struggle with forward folds because my hamstrings are really tight, but I can do a lot of other postures very easily. Figuring out where we struggle and where we're strong is a good thing because we'll feel great when we're strong in things. And when we struggle, we just got to meet that with grace. And part of that is breathing through it. So again, Mole Bandha is just a slight pull. We're not squeezing everything up and in and doing this. We're just pulling up a little bit. This helps to lock the energy in. Uddiyana Bandha helps to circulate it through the rest of our system. When Uddiyana Bandha is activated, it helps to expand the lungs. We can feel the intercostal muscles of the ribs expand and contract as we breathe. During a lot of the asanas, we're just having a slight pull of these bandhas. This does help activate the core. It helps keep us in balance. But again, we are balancing on the breath. They should be equal inhales and exhales. We're finding an equality here. Oftentimes we count, but finding that equality in breath will bring a stableness to the asana practice that is unlike anything that we have ever known. So the first most important thing is breath. Second, posture. Third is Drishti, which Drishti is your eye gaze. It's where you're looking during the practice. Sometimes it can be good to practice with your eyes closed for some postures, just so you have that inward gaze, you can feel out the body. But often the times we're externalizing our gaze, or looking up towards our third eye, or our nose, or something of that nature. There's 7 major drishtis. We have nasagre, which is the nose. We have nabi, which is the navel. We have hastagre, which is the hand. We have the toe, which I think it's padayogre. We have parshua, which is the left or the right side, oftentimes during twists. We have a thumb gaze, which a lot of times when we're in warriors or things of that nature, we'll look towards the thumbs. And then we have urdhva, which is an upward gaze. So whenever we're like inhaling up, we'll look up, but we're also kind of looking towards the thumbs there and also kind of towards the third eyes. Again, the drishti is not so important. That will come with the practice, and you will find that your eyes just kind of go where your body's going. It becomes very natural, and sometimes the instructed drishti is not going to work with you because your body may not be able to go fully into the pose. It's like in a forward fold, we're supposed to look at our toes, but if we're all the way up here, We don't want to lead with our head, we're leading with our eyes. So we're not going to crank our head down to physically look at the drishti that's instructed. We're just going to let our eye gaze go where it is, and we're going to soften. So with the nose gaze, most standing forward folds, during plank, during up dog, we may look up towards the nose. Also during up dog, you may be looking up towards the third eye, which is an awesome practice for that called Shambhavi Mudra, where you just keep your eyes open, look at your third eye and hold it as long as you can, breathing long and deep. And the third eye is our seat of intuition. So the more we connect to it, the more clear our path is going to lay out before us, and we're going to be able to be sensitive to the things that we need to do. So during downward dog, we're ideally looking towards the navel, but again, if you can't get that perfect triangle posture, then your gaze may just be at the floor, maybe at your hands, just wherever it goes. We're not making a big deal about this. So yeah, any twists, we're just looking over the sides. Again, we're leading with our eyes. And for the toes, it's like seated forward folds, things of that nature. And we're looking up for like ikum, or like chair pose, we'll be looking up to towards the thumbs. But yeah, drishtis, they'll come natural with practice. We're not really too fretting about that. We're just kind of allowing it to happen as it does, and with time you will find those natural gazes are going to go where they go. So mantras are a personal favorite part of my practice. I am a trained Kundalini yogi and have studied a lot of the tantric and Hindu mantras, and the Ashtanga mantras I really do appreciate. They're a little complicated, but once you get into them, they're a very good way of setting the intention for your practice. The beginning is about to Patanjali, which he was the one who brought together the aphorisms of the Yoga Sutras and helped to solidify this modern path of yoga. It is svasti prajabhya pya palanyantam. And this is, may the well-being of humanity be protected. So it's just a call out to the universe to please protect us, protect this earth, protect our existence. Let us be secure. And then Nayayena, Margena, Mahima, Mahisa. May the leaders of the earth act within fair nature. So allow our leaders to actually have our best interests in mind, not just money or greed. I so deeply wish that this one was true. Our leaders oftentimes show that they are not concerned about us, but that's a whole another conversation. Go Brahmena Vyas Subhamastu Nityam. May the divine and the seeker of truth be honored. So really just honoring these paths, honoring the teachers, honoring that divine light within us, and letting others really see that we're doing the work, not just for us, but for them as well. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May all beings in the world be content. That was actually the ending mantra, which is a lot more profound than the opening mantra. The opening is about to Patanjali. This ending one is just a blessing for all of creation. Not just all beings in this world, but all beings in existence, wherever they may be. You know, we don't have direct evidence of beings of other worlds, but we can pretty much figure they exist. And then we end with an Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And Shanti is peace. You know, when we do this, we can find an intention to throw out. You know, mine is oftentimes using it just to vibrate a sort of light and security to all beings. We live in a very tumultuous time where we're finding ourselves really distracted, really just kind of lost in our heads. So to project an intention of this wellness and wholeness for all of existence is a valuable thing to put out there. Whether or not it reaps results, time will tell. But the more we remove the selfish nature from ourselves, the more that we can really cultivate our higher self. And the more that we do that, those around us are going to see the change within us. And most of the time, they're going to come at us and wonder what we're doing and how they can start to invite this change into themselves. Granted, there's the flip side where some people project and they get really offended by your progress, but those people, they just are where they are. It's really important to accept every human being, no matter where they are, where they're at, and just have a sort of unconditional love for just everybody. You know, whether they're challenging, whether they're easy, whether they're someone you have a history that's muddled with, just allow them all into this space of healing and light. This is power. So the opening mantra, again, is about to Patanjali, but it's also about the lineage of teachers. It is Vande Gurunam Charana Vinde, and Vande means bowing or honoring. Gurunam is our teachers. So it's essentially saying, I bow to the lotus feet of the gurus. And the guru isn't always necessarily a physical person. The guru can also be that divine teacher within. It can be just the teacher of the universe. Your guru may be a rock that you found when you were hiking that just made you feel very secure, made you feel something outside of yourself that was pure bliss. The word guru is kind of loaded, and yeah, it doesn't always have to be a teacher. It's something that's inside of you, something we carry with us through every moment of our days. And Sandha Siddha Svatma Sukhava Bodhe. Sandhar Siddha is at vision reveal, Svatma is true self, Sukhava is happiness, and Bodhe is knowledge. So it's really saying that our true self will reveal happiness and knowledge. So once we connect to that truest self that we have, that deep spiritual self, then happiness and bliss, they're gonna follow. And bliss isn't necessarily always being this just super elated human being. It is presence. It is having the ability to be in every moment as we walk through the days and just take life as it comes, and finding power in both the suffering and the not suffering. Nisreyase Jangalika Yamane, like the jungle healer who brings great well-being. So just that person or that thing that brings you into a state of well-being and bliss. Samsara hala hala mohashanche. This is stating that we get relief from delusions or the maya, the false external reality. Samsara is conditioned experience. Hala hala is the poison. And mohashanche is the peaceful resolution of delusion. So it's removing the delusions from our existence and stopping to delude ourselves so we can just really disseminate into our pure being. And then Abahu Purusakaram, which Abahu is the bodily limbs, Purusakaram is the form of man. This is talking about Patanjali being the form of a man and a snake. Sancha Charakra Sri Dharanam, which is the three things that Patanjali tends to hold in his images. It is the chakras, a sword, and the conch. The conch shell is the sacred sound that leads you to yourself. The chakras are that individualized power, and the sword is a sort of protection. Sahasra, 1000, Srirasam, which is headed, Svitam, brilliantly white. So it's the 1,000-headed lotus that is brilliantly white. It refers to Patanjali as Ananta, which is the divine serpent. And then Pranami Patanjalim, I salute or I bow to that, which is Patanjali. But you know, you can look into these mantras and find several different ways of reading into them. Sanskrit and English don't translate too directly to each other. Sometimes you can find single words, sometimes many. But I would invite you to look into these mantras, look into the deeper meaning, and find your own meaning that you can ascribe to it. You know, maybe it's bowing to the eternal light within you. Maybe it's literally paying homage to Patanjali. Maybe you're just vibrating the words to create a space. There is a lot of power in mantra, in creating space within you for health and healing. You just have to give them time, let them do the work. And also, don't worry about pronouncing perfectly on the first, second, third, fourth, 50th try. This takes time. It has us doing things with our tongue that just aren't natural. The words roll out weird, so don't judge your experience, just allow it. So what this all boils down to is honor your body, balance your breath, and just be open to experience. Thank you for joining me. Sadnam. Namaste. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Also know that we have a Patreon and we are accepting supporters. Lowest tier is $5. That keeps things like this being made, helps support this path, this studio, these teachers. Thank you for watching.